Nick speaking, and welcome to this Eldar learning curve video. And today we're looking at Wraithlords. So these are my three Wraithlords. I have the newer model and I have two of the old ones, which basically I just got these because they're really cheap and they're a good stand-in whilst I save up to buy one of these. Or at least that was the plan. But to be fair, I've been on a bit of a rampage with sort of old minis lately, mainly because it's well, it's good cost savings really for your army. So I'm actually now thinking about painting these up along with this one in my IDIC colours and just having these in my army. Might be quite cool actually to have this guy a bit different. He could be like the leader of the Wraithlords maybe. But yeah, anyway, putting those aside, let's have a look at the model, and we'll start off with the modelling sort of side of things. So if you're ever going to magnetise or make your model interchangeable for Eldar, then this is the model to do it, because you have loads and loads of options for this and they're all pretty cool, and depending on which type of army format you want to go for, it's well worth making him interchangeable. So with mine I try to make him stand in the pose that I could interchange him and still have him looking pretty cool no matter what I did with him. So this is one option where I have the missile launcher and the bright lance. The weapons are pinned rather than magnetised because I found that a bit easier because it's quite a small joint. So they're all pinned. I've got the flamers just on here, and the flamer will actually go into his arm as well if I want. I said different poses, and I've got the head magnetised so I can change his head around, so get lots of different poses. The hands, they're all magnetised as well. So yeah, definitely well worth magnetising these little beauties, and the reason for that is, as I said earlier, it's quite nice to be able to change all of the options. So let's have a look at some of the options and see how we're going to use them. Okay, so let's start with the weapon loadouts. So first up you have a choice of the flamer or the shuriken caps. Probably don't need to tell you this, but 100% flamer. So I mean, you could even just glue them on, because flamer is the way to go. I mean, it's the way to go in 6th, it's the way to go in 5th, it's the option to go for, so definitely a flamer. As for the other guns, the first thing to bear in mind with these is don't take the same guns, because you have the option of one gun and then another gun. If you take both, they become twin linked. Sounds really good, but I mean, if you, for example, this bright lance here costs 40 points. So if I took another bright lance, I'm basically paying 40 points just to make this twin linked, and he hits on 3s anyway, so there really is no point. So yes, definitely take two different weapons, and you can arm him up however you like really. I mean, I've got this one here. This is one of my favourite loadouts, which I was using in 5th edition, which is the bright lance and the missile launcher. Basically long range anti-vehicle guns. That's the way I used to use them. I mean, I've got all three. My old ones you can see here, I've mounted that weapons combination. So in my Harlequin list I had 3 of these running like that. The other combination would be maybe the scatter laser and either the shuriken cannon or possibly the star cannon. Basically like an anti-infantry type gun, weapon systems. Or you could swap out one of the guns and put on the wraith sword, which once again I have mine all magnetised there. How cool is that? Look at him there, love it, love this model. Yeah, so wraith sword, he lets you re-roll your hits. Now, although he's a monstrous creature, he's got some really cool stats. He only has 2 attacks, so even on the charge, 3 attacks. Although he's got some high stats like strength 10 and toughness 8, he's only weapon skill 4. So pretty much most of the time you're going to be hitting on 4s. Being able to re-roll is actually quite useful. So you do have the option to make him a little bit more close combat orientated. You can still have this gun on the top of your choice, whatever gun you go for, possibly scatter lasers and the sword, gives you your 4 shots and then your sword efforts. So again, it depends what you're doing with him really. I mean, if you could have him at the back of your army in terrain, just shooting those long guns, you could have him at the front of the army, getting ready to get into battle. So yeah, it's very, very multitask, and that's why I would recommend that you make him interchangeable. I do actually have a video about this model in more detail, the interchangeable side of it, so if you want to check that out, please feel free. Right, so let's have a look. He is a character, so that is a very, very good bonus. In the assault, you can pick out those characters. You can protect him a little bit in the assault, which is quite nice. So what's wrong with him? Well, the main thing is that he only has a 3+ save. A 3+ save, this is Eldar, and it's not very good. Well, the problem that you have with him is that he doesn't have an invulnerable save, and although he has 3 wounds, just imagine the scenario. You turn up, you've got a Wraithlord, and your opponent sees that, and let's just say you've got a foot list with this single Wraithlord in, or maybe even 2 Wraithlords. Now your opponent is going to have some anti-tank guns, and guess where they're going? They're going into here, and your anti-tank guns usually going to be AP3 or AP2, and you're not going to get a save. And okay, there's cover save. You could have your men in front, you might get 25% cover save, but a 5+, not that great. Even fortune, a 5+ fortune isn't going to be that great. So he's quite vulnerable, especially, and this is where the list that you take him in is very, very important, because he's especially invulnerable if you don't have enough of the correct supporting units to protect him, basically. So what I mean by that is, if you had like a row of tanks in your list and a row of these, well, your opponent then has hard choices to make, and your Wraithlords have got much better chance of survival because there's going to be other targets. But like I said, if you're going to be going along with a foot list, like 2 lots of Dire Avengers and Fire Dragons and Harlequins, whatever you've got in your foot list, then these are going to be big targets. I mean, even if you had 3 of them, they will be big targets. So that's just something to bear in mind with these, is they can be easily shot out. I mean, the very first time I used this guy here, he was taken out by some scouts. First turn, I didn't even shoot him, put him on the board. My opponent had turn 1, snipers, wounding on 4s, and he was dead. And that was my first experience of the Wraithlord. But yes, I do like him, I do play him. I'm not sure this combination works so well in my Harlequin list because it's quite an expensive combo, 155 points, and I have 3 of them, with plus the Harlequins, which are very expensive units when you're maxing those out as well. I could get away with it in 5th edition with the Pathfinders, just 2 squads of Pathfinders, but that doesn't really work anymore nowadays in 6th edition, so I've got to reassess my Harlequin list. But in general, excellent unit, as long as you're aware of its weakness and you have a backup plan that runs alongside these just to help them survive. So yeah, don't just take a Wraithlord and plop him on the table and say, well, there you go, Wraithlord, he's going to do the business, because potentially he's not. But if you've got a plan for him, then you've got a good way to go. And of course, don't forget the Wraithlord Shuffle. Wraithlord Shuffle, basically you have your Wraithlords together. If this one takes a wound, then he goes at the back, like so. So he at least gets his cover saves, and then the chances are you're going to be shooting at this one next, and again, if he gets any wounds, you can go like that. So Wraithlord Shuffle, quite a useful tactic in just giving yourself cover saves on the vulnerable ones. Okay, so that's it for Wraithlords. Hopefully that was useful to you. Hopefully I covered maybe a few little bits in there which you may not have seen on other videos. Like I said, this is just my experience, my learning curve that I'm sharing with you. So next up we're going to have a look at War Walkers.